Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Always Compete Seahawks Podcast. I am Mike. That is Sam, as you can tell by just him being in every episode, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know what you expect at this point.
Yeah, it's just us two. But today we have a special video. We have a debate-style video. So we had a topic, and what we're going to do is we're each going to take a side on it, and we're going to argue for that side. And then in the comments below, you're going to decide who's right and who's wrong, who argued it better. Obviously, me being the captain of my high school's debate team, I should probably just wipe the floor with Sam. That's total cap. That's total cap. I suck.
Bro, I am a monster at debating. In my 5th grade class, our teacher's like, all right, our teacher's like, we're gonna have a debate on should zoos be allowed. Everybody else, it was me and 2 other kids for the yes, zoos should be allowed. Everybody else was like zoos, as a plural of zoo. Zoo plural. Zoos.
Oh, but stupid. Man, I'm really gonna lose this debate. I got stuck on zoos.
but like one time it was like no, like the whole class, like 30 kids were like, no, it shouldn't be allowed. It's cruel. And then I single-handedly won the debate for my team. My teacher at the end, he was like, I'm gonna pick whoever I think debated the best. It's going to y'all.
So I'm going against some real competition here.
Yeah, you're going up against the infamous zoo debate champion of 2014.
Like the Smash Bros intro, next opponent, zoo debate champion. It's like cool music in the background. Anyway, so today our debate topic is going to be who has been more important to the Seahawks' success, Pete Carroll, the coach, or John Schneider, the GM. Not going to say which side we wanted. We flipped the coin. We flipped the coin before we did this video.
And I won.
And Sam won.
I won.
So Sam is going to be
therefore I'll be debating on the side of John Schneider. And
I got Pete Carroll.
Mike will be debating on the side of Pete Carroll.
Yes. Okay. So I say, just as a courtesy to me, since you won the coin toss, I say you let me open with my argument. Then we can get some rebuttal from you, and then you'll give your argument, I'll rebuttal, and then we conclude it. So
concluding.
Here is my opening argument.
You want me to start a timer? I could do a 5-minute timer just to make sure that Mike doesn't ramble. The captain of his debates doesn't ramble too much.
And so the simping is kind of held to a minimum here. All right, let me know when my timer starts.
Your 4-minute timer has started now.
Okay, so since before Pete Carroll was the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, the Seahawks franchise was mostly a joke, right? We were mostly a joke. We made one Super Bowl in 2005. We lost to the Steelers. We hadn't had any success. We had good players like Steve Largent, Walter Jones, but we weren't a legit team. And since Pete Carroll has been our head coach, we have been a legit contender every single year. Now, obviously, post 2012 is really that time frame. But even in 2010, we knocked off the reigning Super Bowl champions in one of the biggest playoff upsets ever, right? So, hey,
All right, your 4-minute timer is starting now.
All right, so since before Pete Carroll got to Seattle, let's be honest, the Seahawks franchise was kind of a joke. They went to one Super Bowl in 2005. They've lost that Super Bowl. And since he's been there, he's doubled their Super Bowl appearances. He's been to 2, won 1. Obviously, should have won the other one, but we're not going to talk about it. Obviously, since he's been our head coach, we've been a contender almost every single year, especially post 2012 and beyond. In 2010, even in before he got Russell Wilson, we beat the defending Super Bowl champs Saints in the wildcard round. Maybe you guys remember that for a particular Marshawn Lynch run, but that was a great victory. And even if you look back at his other coaching, it's not just, obviously Seattle, because he had one of the greatest college dynasties at USC, was a great coach there. So I really do feel like he's a great coach, and he has made us a legit contender every single year. Obviously, he was one of the leading builders of the Legion of Boom, helped us get our defense right, because, that's what his specialty is defense, more specifically defensive backs. Even when you look at his time at USC, they had guys like Troy Polamalu, they had Taylor Mays, Madden legends. For any of you guys who play Madden, he's a dog. But so Pete Carroll has been consistent year in and year out, leading a quality football team. Now, Bill Parcells had a quote one time, and he said, you could go shopping and you can get all the best ingredients, but if you don't have the right chef, the meal's going to suck. So has John Schneider done a good job of, shopping and getting the food ready for Pete Carroll? Yes, he has. but Pete Carroll has done a fantastic job of assorting that meal and making it into, or sorting those ingredients and making it into a great meal. Won a Super Bowl, obviously. Like I said, they've just been really good every single year. Their worst year, they went 9-7. I mean, that's under Pete Carroll. That's been really, really good. He's getting older, yes, but I think he's still got energy. He still brings a lot of leadership and a lot of juice to that team. And the guys really like him. He's been a part of building such a great culture of team friendly atmosphere. People want to come play for Seattle. They enjoy playing for Seattle. They enjoy playing for Pete Carroll. And, John Schneider, he's not on the field. He doesn't have as good relationships with those players. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that he's brought a winning culture to Seattle. He has improved our defense. He has made the Seahawks a legit team after being a joke for most of their history. And he has just molded this atmosphere around the Seahawks and has made them better. And he was the chef to John Schneider's shopping. That's my argument.
Okay. Fair argument. I'm going to give myself about 2.5 minutes to do my rebuttal.
Oh, you're that good that you just need a minute and a half less than I got? Sam's just that good?
Well, usually their rebuttal's a little less. But starting off,
rebuttal, yeah.
You talked about how Pete Carroll had very much past success with USC.
Yes.
He did. But do you remember his 2 unforgettable coaching stints in the NFL before the Seahawks as the Jets head coach for 1 season and as the Patriots head coach for 2 seasons? He was before Belichick. Belichick walked into that New England roster and had the same roster that Belichick would, or similar roster that Belichick would go on to win with a Super Bowl 2 years later.
That's a similar roster minus the greatest player of all time. But, go ahead.
Yeah, but come on. He had Drew Bledsoe. That's fine. But listen, John Schneider, you talk about him being you talk about him delivering the groceries to Pete who cooks him up. You talk about that. Well, John Schneider isn't just picking up the groceries. He's the grocery store. Pete actively feeds off of what John gives him. And ultimately, I don't think Pete would succeed much without John. John is an amazing trade specialist and is one of the best finessers in the NFL.
Yes.
One of the best finessers.
But I think if John is the grocery store, then Pete Carroll's the restaurant.
I think Pete Carroll's the chef who takes it home, and it's great. Don't get me wrong, but is it 5-star work always?
I'd say it probably
always.
Is. I mean, we've owned the NFC West since his tenure being here. We've been to 2 Super Bowls. We've won a Super Bowl, something that the Seahawks had never done.
But
despite having coaches like
Carroll,
Mike Holmgren,
John Schneider controls the draft room. You know how many draft picks he's made? You know how many draft picks he's made?
Oh, I'm not denying.
He's picked Richard Sherman in the 5th round, Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, Bobby Wagner in the 2nd round, Cam Chancellor in the 5th round, even guys like Byron Maxwell in the 6th round. Mm-hmm. Earl Thomas in the 1st round picked him over a guy who Pete Carroll wanted. Do you know who Pete Carroll wanted that year? Taylor Mays.
Well, and there's no actually – and Pete Carroll – you're acting like John Schneider is the whole operation. Pete Carroll does contribute to that, obviously. He's got guys that he likes. He talks about guys. Pete Carroll is said to have been really in for trading Jamal Adams. So maybe they don't pull the trigger on the Jamal Adams trade if Pete Carroll doesn't give his voice of opinion. So you're acting like John Schneider just does it. He just sits in
John Schneider doesn't run the whole ship. But he controls where the ship is.
In the terms of the front office, he is the captain of the ship. But Pete Carroll is the guy, rowing in the front there. The ship don't move without Pete Carroll.
Yeah, because as we all know, cruise ships need crucial rowing from the guy in the front.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, damn it. He's on a lifeboat. No,
yeah. All right, now I'm going to start my 4-minute opening argument.
All right.
So John Schneider is ultimately one of the best general managers in the NFL, so much so that teams were actively fighting for him this offseason. Detroit Lions.
Get your ass out of here.
We're like, hey, come on in. We'll give you the largest GM money in NFL history. They were willing to pay $10+ million for John Schneider to come to the team. And he declined because John Schneider's just that cool. So automatically, number one, John Schneider, not a sellout. Nice. But not saying the pizza sellout, but just saying, So John Schneider has consistently been one of the best scouters of under-the-radar talent in the NFL. He largely controls the draft and trade process. And, of course, he's not a great picker in the first round. That's kind of universally known. But it's more quantity over – no, I don't even want to say that. It's more quality. There's a little bit more quantity than quality, but a lot of those players turn out to be quality, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
John Schneider pulled the move to move back into the second round to pick a certain 6'3" wide receiver who's built like a freak of nature. Yeah, that guy's name is DK Metcalf. Not saying that Pete didn't have any input, but once again,
his shirtless meeting instantly. You want to talk about Pete Carroll with DK Metcalf? All right, you see the shirtless picture they took together?
No. Yes, I did, of course, but that doesn't matter. So, I mean, listen to this. I'm on John Schneider's Wikipedia page. Let me read some of this. Has been praised for his late round picks and undrafted free agent signings. Russell Wilson, Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Tyler Lockett, KJ Wright, and then he has signed Doug Baldwin, Thomas Rawls, and Jermaine Kearse. And then he's also made under the radar signings like Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, and has made crucial trades for players like Jimmy Graham and Jamal Adams. Now, I mean, this is an impressive resume that John Schneider has put together. And you want to talk about past success? John Schneider built a perennial contender from 2002 to 2009 with the Green Bay Packers before he came to Seattle with Brett Favre, with Aaron Rodgers. Both of those times, they were ultimately contenders at the end of the day. I think that when talking about who is more important to whether the Seahawks succeed in the long run, maybe in the short-term run, of course, Pete Carroll may be more relevant just because he has to be a good coach to win. But ultimately, in the long run, John Schneider is what controls most of this team and what controls the success. And he showed that he can maintain consistent success on the field and in the front office. He's been consistently one of the best recruiters of players in the NFL. And once again, I think that John is drastically underrated in the grand scheme of the NFL.
Is that your argument?
That's my argument.
Here's my rebuttal. So I cannot argue with the fact that John Schneider is one of, if not the best GMs, since his time being in Seattle. Obviously, the guy's a freaking demon. He's amazing at his job. I'm not taking anything away from him. What I will say, though, is in the importance of a head coach versus a GM, I feel that the head coach is more important because, like I said, the GM could be assembling all these players, can be doing all these things, could assemble, the best team around. But if they can't perform, if they're not, coached up very well, then they're not going to do crap. They're not going to win playoff games. They're not going to go to the Super Bowl. They're not going to do anything. And then it's not going to reflect very well. So they need to complement each other for sure. But I think that coaching is more important in that aspect. But you're absolutely right with everything you said about John. I don't need to repeat anything. You were right. You weren't wrong. I just think the overall value of a coach is more significant than the value of a GM. And it's harder to be a great coach than it is to be a great GM. Because, like I said, you could give a chef all of the best ingredients, fresh basil, cheese imported from Italy, and then he could burn the whole kitchen down. Or he could take those good ingredients that the good grocery shopper gave him, and he could form a nice 5-star, 5-course meal that Gordon Ramsay approves of. And I think Pete Carroll's done that for the most part. So that's my argument. Nothing against John Schneider, but I think head coach is just a little bit more important.
All right, cool. So now we're going to do our final. We've each done a rebuttal and our opening statement. We'll now be doing 2-minute closing statement. I will go first here. And I'm going to mention the point here that I've been holding on to for this whole time. John Schneider has consistently put forth an incredible team and roster. But in the recent years, I've begun to notice something, which is Pete Carroll puts a very low ceiling on this Seahawks team. That's what I believe. Personally, I think Pete Carroll is a coach that has a pretty high floor, but that ceiling is much lower than it should be. I think that look at what he's been given in the recent years. Schottenheimer was kind of doing his thing last year. He was putting stuff forward. And then Russ has a couple bad games, and Pete Carroll goes, oh, my God, abort the whole thing. We need to shut this thing down. We may have two amazing wide receivers and an offense that's clicking on all cylinders, and Russell Wilson, who's having an MVP-type year through this point. And guess who put all of that on the table? Freaking John Schneider. John Schneider put forth this amazing team on paper on the field that could easily be an amazing, unstoppable offense. And Pete Carroll goes, after a couple bumps in the road, Pete Carroll sits there and he says, oh my God, Shotty, come in here. We have to start establishing this run, and we're going to win 17-10 every game. And I just think that ultimately Pete Carroll essentially negative influence-wise on the Seahawks, I think his negative influence is higher than what John Schneider may have as of now and overall throughout the Seahawks history. That's my ending statement there.
Well, I would tend to disagree with you. Being obviously a huge Russell Wilson fanboy, would I love to see them air it out all the time? Absolutely. I'd love to see him throw 50 times a game and have 50 touchdowns a year. But you got to understand, the way they won the Super Bowl was not by throwing 50 times a game. It was by running the rock. It was by playing good defense. And I know what you're going to say. I got it. I get all the points that you're going to hit. But you have to understand where he's coming from with that philosophy. Because, again, it won him a Super Bowl less than 10 years later, or 10 years ago. It got him to another Super Bowl less than 10 years ago. And if you want to be a real asshole, you could say that by throwing the ball more, he lost that second Super Bowl. So
but he made that ultimate call. That's a no-brainer call, Mike. He made that call.
Anyway, skipping I can't defend that. That's like the one point, like, you got me. White flag up there. But to put the cherry on top of my winning argument, consistent success. A head coach is harder than a GM. He has been given good pieces. Yes, I'm not arguing that. But he has taken those good pieces and he's made them into a good football team. That is a lot harder than it sounds. What are other teams? Like, for example, let's say, I'm trying to think of like an example of a team that's just surrounded by talent, but they can't seem to get it done.
Chicago Bears.
Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. It's the future. Anyway. But yeah, like, you get what I'm saying. So That's my argument. That's his argument. Let us know down below who won, who was right, who debated better, and maybe give some of your own points that maybe one of us forgot to mention. If you're a smart person and you think Pete Carroll is the more important one, comment it down below.
Although my final cherry on top, and the ultimate shot, ultimate shot into Mike's heart is Mike wanted Josh Schneider so bad, and he flipped the coin, and Mike lost. So that's my cherry.
He wasn't supposed to. It's like that scene in Cloudy with the Chance of Meatballs where all the food stack and then the cherry falls, the whole thing bursts. Like, that's what you just did. That's what you just did, bro.
Mike had built a good argument, but anyways.
By the way, we did this totally on a whim, so if we forgot something, like, don't say we're stupid. We literally just planned
it out. We went into this with no preparation. You wanted to go bare bones.
Yes. We flipped the
see
coin.
What would happen.
We flipped the coin and then pressed record. Like, that's how fast we went. So we hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Peace.